So we like to use almost exclusively solar edge systems. There's a few benefits to that of having the panels optimized individually on the roof, but one of the things which is really great with them is the amount of data we've got available. And when we're evaluating a system's performance and making suggestions to customers about how they can improve the self-consumption rates of these systems, having this rich data makes a massive difference. So we can see here we've got the live view. It's a miserable rainy morning today, so the system's only actually producing 5 kilowatts and there's 55 kilowatts coming from the grid. But we'll get a slightly more positive picture if we take a look back through a few days here. And then there's a couple of days ago, we can see that the solar generation is this perfect bell curve in the middle. And because of how that matches with the opening hours of the garden centre, it really fits well with the consumption profile. And that's why on that particular day, we achieved 66% of the consumption, which is quite high. It was 600 kilowatt hours was used that day, and only 210 had to be paid for from the grid. So that's a 66% saving on that day. And that's really what we're trying to hit. And through summer, I expect that we'll hit that most days when this miserable weather's passed. We can see in here that there's two arrays. They're set up in what we call a leader-follower configuration, which means the two inverters are communicating with each other. And one of the things that this does is we've got a restriction here on how much power can be exported. So the two of them are talking together, and if there was an event when the garden centre was closed and not using any power, it would restrict the power being generated to not overload the local grid. So we can see on here we've got the main building with each panel individually monitored, and we can see the output from each panel on there. And then we've got the bakery building, which has got a smaller 30 kilowatt inverter that's providing a useful boost to the overall system. So we can check on here that all the panels are performing correctly. On this one, we did have a panel with a broken connector on it, so we were able to see that before the scaffolding came down. We already knew exactly which panel it was, went straight up, got it replaced, and it didn't really cause us any problem at all. So having that rich individual panel level data is really, really useful for us as installers, for working with the client in maintaining the system, and also for having the performance details and being able to make smart energy choices for the future. In terms of environmental impact, so we know the figures for UK grid CO2. The CO2 produced per kilowatt hour generated on the grid, and that's something that's been falling rapidly, which is a great thing. But from the energy we've generated so far in this system, which is 5.29 megawatt hours, had that 5.29 megawatt hours been generated by the grid, by gas and nuclear and wind and so on, we estimate there that would have used just over a ton of CO2. So in the 3 weeks that we've had this thing up and running, we've saved a ton of CO2 already, and that's just going to go on for the next 25 years. According to the estimate on the Solar Edge app, that's equivalent to planting 61.93 trees so far. So by the end of today, we should have completed our 62nd virtual tree with this system.